Hello, genealogists. This is Craig, and this is Just Genealogy. And today we are going to continue our journey into Genealogy Standards. So today we're going to be talking about standard number 33, paraphrases and summaries, standard number 34, agents, standard number 35, source analysis, and standard number 36, information analysis. So let's get started. Standard number 33. Oh, before I continue, I almost forgot. It's been so long since I did a standard thing. I do not represent the Board for Certification Genealogists. Any opinion which I may express in regards to these standards is mine and mine alone. Standard number 33, paraphrases and summaries. In their working notes and finished products, genealogists may paraphrase or summarize the source's content if the result explains the original material without altering its meaning. Genealogists source cite paraphrases and summaries. They place quotation marks around any phrase of 3 or more words that appear in the original. Seems like I've talked about this before in regards to those 3 or more words. But anyway, 3 seems like a small number. I don't like to paraphrase or summarize the source's contents. I like to just put the source's contents there as it applies to what I need. I'm always afraid that if I paraphrase something, I'm going to miss something. Or that if I summarize something about a source, not summarizing something about my solution to the problem, in other words, the combination of all those things together, summarizing all of those sources together is one thing. But summarizing a source can be sometimes problematic because you might miss something in your summary. And then when you go back to it, you've missed it entirely because you're only looking at the summary. So I don't necessarily like doing that. In fact, I don't like in the beginning writing down anything at all except referencing this piece of paper that I now have. It's so easy to photograph things now, and it's so easy to photocopy. Between the two of them, you should have the source right there in front of you. If I'm doing my final analysis, I'm going to want to have that original source in front of me. I may have a transcription of that source with it just because I'm having difficulty reading quickly the handwriting. Sometimes that happens. I don't spend a lot of time looking at handwriting anymore. Used to a long time ago where it was every day I was looking at handwriting and I could go through it rather quickly. But yeah, that doesn't happen as much now. So it isn't like I read like I used to. So you want to be careful about paraphrasing and summarizing to ensure that, in fact, you have everything. But my advice to you is don't do that at all. Just photocopy the record, photograph the record, and have the record available to you. Now, make sure that you appropriately cite that record in the material. What I tend to do is take the photograph of it and then put it into a Word document and then put the citation right on the front of the Word document with it, so they're never separated from each other again. I don't put things on the back, put things on the front. So even though I may have an original photograph, I will scan that original photograph and put it into a Word document. It just makes my life so much easier. And especially when it comes time to put it all together, I have the original record. I don't have a summary. I don't have a paraphrase. But if you must summarize and you must paraphrase, then be sure that you cover all the information that you have to in order to make sure that you don't make a mistake, because that's what we're trying to avoid. We're trying to fix it so that your summary or your paraphrasing of something will not get you in trouble down the line and someone will call you out. Place quotation marks around any phrase with 3 or more words that appear in the original. If you're only talking about 3 words that appear in the original, I'm wondering just what. I tend to put things in indents, talk about entire paragraphs. It's unlikely that 3 words alone are going to do anything for you. And there's also the issue of, it could mean that you quoted everything. It could be too much fun. 3 words seems a little sparse to me. But anyway, I am normally in my own use, if it's, half a line, Yeah. So, okay, for me, maybe it's 5 words, but the standard is 3. So therefore, shucks, from now on, it's going to be 3 words. Forgot about this one. Let me just interrupt for a minute. As you know, my name's Craig Scott. I'm the president and CEO of Heritage Books. And we at Heritage Books are very interested in selling genealogy books. That's what we do. So let me ask you to take a look at heritagebooks.com. That's the group that sponsors these videos, all 300 plus of them. And go out to heritagebooks.com and see what's there. When you do that, there's a newsletter that you can subscribe to. Please subscribe to our newsletter because that's where we're going to tell you about new books now. That's where we're going to tell you about recent publications, back in print, what's going on, where I'm going to be, both live and virtually in the various places where I'm speaking around the country. And also, if you would let us know how you feel that we could improve our website or improve our operations to make your book buying easier, trust me, Heritage Books would appreciate it. Well, back to the video. So standard number 34 is agents. And genealogists may use agents to find and examine sources, make images from them, and provide the images directly to the genealogist, or otherwise to find, obtain, and provide information potentially relevant to a research question. Providing clear directions, genealogists specify what the agent is to supply. When an agent does not provide complete images, genealogists ask for a commentary sufficient to ensure correct interpretation of the source and its context. In their words, in progress and finished products, genealogists acknowledge their agents' roles. See glossary for definitions of conclusion, image, information, and research question. This actually has 2 sides. And one side is you, and the other side is your agent. I don't normally think in terms of agent. I normally just ask somebody to go find something for me. I prefer always for someone to give me an image so that I can deal with what's in the image myself. Because I'm not a trusting soul, I like to see the original record myself or the derivative, whatever it might be. So my goal in discussing with an agent is what my expectations are. I clearly delineate specifically what I'm looking for. Generally, because of the kind of work that I do, I'm going to be saying, go to record group 217. Please look in entry 728 and pull me the file that deals with abstract number XYZ. And so I'm very straightforward in what I'm looking for. I rarely will send somebody out on a wild goose chase because I would rather do the wild goose chase myself. And fortunately, I'm in a situation where I can afford to wait to do my own wild goose chases. So clear directions are very important. You also, if you've got somebody that you've not dealt with before and can't read your mind, you want to make sure that you make it clear to them what material you already have and that you don't want them to look here because you have that material. You don't want to have your agent reinvent the wheel, especially a wheel that you already have in your wheelhouse. So you want to be very careful with individuals. I very rarely provide an open-ended opportunity. Usually I'm doing, book page number, record group series, those kinds of things. And if you can't get to that level of detail, it's very possible you haven't done enough work yourself to get there. Because the last thing you want to do is send your agent out on a fishing expedition. It becomes very expensive and many times just does not work for you. So I would assume that in their works in progress and finished products, genealogists acknowledge their agents' roles, that you handle that in a footnote and say that, you hired somebody to do that. So I thought I'd interrupt one more time, just because I can, and give you a discount code, because I haven't given you a discount code in a long time. And as I was walking the shelves in the warehouse, I noted that we had a lot of books in some areas. So what I've done is in the description, I've put in a discount code for you for a specific category of books. Those will be available at a 30% discount until the next video. Back to the video. So now we're going to talk about probably two of the most important pieces of the standards for researching. That is standard number 35, source analysis, and standard number 36, information analysis. After all, this is where we're all going, the end result of the analysis piece of the researching side. So standard number 35, source analysis. As they examine potentially relevant sources, genealogists appraise each source's likely accuracy, integrity, and completeness. This appraisal considers the source's characteristics: physical condition, legibility, whether it is an original or derivative record or an authored narrative, the source's internal consistency, how parts of the source agree or disagree with each other, the source's external consistency, how it compares with other items in the same series or collection, the source's history, including its governance, provenance, purpose, recorder, storage, and time lapse between events and their recordation. See glossary for definitions of accurate analysis, authored narrative, derivative record, original record, provenance, record noun, and source. Our goal as genealogists is to find as many original records as possible that will in fact support what will eventually become our conclusion. Knowing the physical condition of the record may provide you assistance in figuring out whether everything is there, especially given if it's torn, if it's faded, those kind of things, because there may be information there that you just can't decipher, or it's totally missing, but you believe it belongs there from the perspective of your expectation was that it would be there, and then it wasn't. Legibility is more a function of you than it is of the document itself. Sometimes an experienced eye can see things that unexperienced eyes cannot see. If you were to take a look at a document that you looked at 30 years ago and look at it again, it's very possible that you would, in fact, view it differently from the perspective of legibility than you did 30 years ago. I know that I've had this problem from the perspective of things that I looked at 30 years ago, and I've looked at again in the recent past of going, oh, why didn't I see that before? That kind of situation. Whether it is original or derivative or is an authored narrative, that in my mind is one of the most important things of those things that we've discussed so far, because I'm looking for original records. If I've got a derivative record, I still need to search out the original. And many times you can't find the original. You can find 14 derivative records, but you can't find the original record or that created those derivative records, or an authored narrative. Now, authored narrative could come from an original record, could come from a derivative record. I like to look at my authored narratives and see what the sources are that created that narrative, so that I know whether they're in fact original or whether they are derivative. So with authored narratives, I try to take an additional step. The source's internal consistency, how parts of the source agree or disagree with each other. The one thing that I'm looking for here is it the same handwriting? Recently, I had someone ask me what some initials meant in a deed, and the initials were BS, and they followed a name. Well, in my mind, BS following a name is Bachelor of Science, but I didn't actually know what it was other than that possibility, and I'm not saying it was that, but that was the only thing I was coming up with. So I asked, is there anywhere else among the deeds where those initials exist? And since this individual had an electronic document where she had transcribed the deeds or abstracted the deeds, whatever she was doing, this was the only place the BS existed. So in my mind, the only choices were Bachelor of Science or the name of some creek or some stream or something to give some indication, but normally the letters BS would not mean anything. So there was no internal consistency because it was a one-off. I will always, if I can't figure out what a word means or what a letter is, I will look for other uses of the letter in that same document to see how it works. Many times in documents, you'll find that a name is spelled one way in the body of the document, yet the signature is different. That happens generally because somebody else is transcribing the document and then the individual is signing it, but that's okay. We can live with that, but look for those internal consistencies. Look for consistency within the document. Now, the next one is the source's external consistency, how it compares to other items in the same series or collection. Again, same kinds of issues, except you're expanding your focus into other documents that are part of that grouping. The source's history, including its governance, provenance, purpose, recorder, storage, and time lapse between events and the recordation. All issues that you have to deal with, and many times you have no clue. You may know what these things are, you may not. It's important for you to have some concept of what these ideas are, especially time lapse between events and recordation, because recognize that there is diminishing returns as time goes by in regards to your memory. Purpose of the document, in my mind, is always important, because the purpose leads you to other documents, or that follow that document, and it will also lead you to documents that came before that document. And I'm a firm believer in document timelines, that you have to know who the precursors are and who the successors are to every document. In fact, that's a goal of your research as part of your exhaustive search, to know what came before and what comes after. So standard 36 is information analysis. As they collect potentially relevant information items from sources, genealogists appraise each item's likely accuracy, integrity, and completeness. This appraisal considers each item's characteristics, legibility, who provided the information, that person's reliability and consistency as witness and as reporter, whether the information is primary or secondary or undetermined, the information's item internal consistency, the presence or absence of contradictions within the item, the item's external consistency, how it compares with other information in the same source. See glossary for definitions of accurate analysis information, primary information, secondary information, and undetermined. So this is a little bit different than source analysis, because the source analysis deals with the concept of the record series, the how the record was housed, those kind of things. But information analysis deals with the information that's on the record, and recognize that there is more information to be dealt with as a genealogist than the information that actually exists on the record. You want the record to talk to you. You don't just want to transcribe the ink. There's more to a record than ink that's on the paper. So legibility is important, because again, you have the same issue that you had with source analysis. It's not much different. Who provided the information? Always important. You always want to know who your informant is. You always want to know who's talking, because everybody talks from their position, and everybody talks from what their agenda is. So it's important for you to know who provided the information. And you also want to know from the perspective and what the relationship of that informant is to the individual who's in the record, because it may make a difference. There's a difference between a neighbor who lives 5 blocks away and your daughter in regards to being an informant. So who provides the information is most important. The person's reliability and consistency as a witness and as a reporter, you may not be able to deal with, because you're dealing at this point in time with the record in isolation. So as you compare this individual's efforts in this record to this individual's efforts in other records, you may come to some conclusion about that. Whether the information is primary or secondary or undetermined, absolutely essential in determining how you might look at this record as a primary record or a secondary record or undetermined. I really do not enjoy undetermined records. The item's internal consistency, the presence or absence of contradictions within the item. You're always looking for the opportunity for there to be no contradictions, but they do occur, so you need to see them. And the item's external consistency, how it compares with other information in the same source. Again, same issues. So we have now finished, finally, standards for researching. And the next time we get together to discuss standards, we will be discussing reasoning from evidence. So thank you very much for joining me today. I look forward to the next time. Please leave your comments below. Always enjoy comments. Try to answer every one. And I will see you soon.